Welcome to Story Guy, where I refuse to help pay for my mother's funeral. A bit of context. My father passed a couple years ago, and long story short, it cost me individually over £3,000. He had things planned, but unfortunately, he dealt with the wrong people, and basically nothing was paid for. When it happened, I told my mum she needs to get things in order as it will be unfair on her children. She was a notorious procrastinator, and her house was literally falling apart around her as she failed time and time again to get things sorted. Despite constant nagging and promising to get it done, she didn't and has now passed. She wanted to be buried, and the casket and burial plot alone are £6,000. That's not including any funeral service fees, wake etc. There's 3 siblings, and only myself and another is capable of funding any of it. I've said we just do the cheapest cremation option or natural burial, but the brothers are insistent on giving mum what she wanted and burying her in a casket and typical cemetery. I flat out refused to put any meaningful amount sorted because as far as I'm concerned, she was told to get it sorted, seen the issue we had with dad, and wasn't so old 67 that her mental state was compromised. She was just a procrastinator. Am I in a hole for refusing to pay for her funeral? My marriage is failing, but I don't want to leave. This post may be all over the place. Truly my brain is a mess, and I just need to vent. I 24F have been married to my husband 27M for 2 years. We had a few bums in the road before we married, but I brushed them off and said it would all be fine. My husband has always been a kind, compassionate person. He would go to any lengths to help people or animals in need. Just not me. It's heavily impacting my self-esteem and mental health, and I just don't know what to do anymore. I feel like I come last to everyone sometimes. Early this year, I was struggling with my physical health, and doctors didn't know what was wrong, but thought it was something serious. My husband's mother, who he sees every 3 months, wanted him to fly down and visit. So, he took our only car, and he did. I was left at home by myself. One of his co-workers flirts with him consistently, and while he doesn't flirt back, he won't set a boundary and tell her she's being unprofessional. I take on the majority of the household work: laundry, cooking, anything relating to our cat, running errands, finding gifts for his family for holidays and birthdays. His only chore is the dishes. He works full-time and is in college. I work part-time and have been trying to go back to school, but I know if I dedicate my time to classes, nothing will get done around the house. I haven't seen my brother in years, as his mom visits or has us visit so frequently. We don't have the finances or days off for another trip. I finally put my foot down and told him I'm going to see my brother no matter the cost. He's the only family I have left. And when his mom found out, she started trying to guilt trip him to come visit during the same month. He ignores her comments, but doesn't set a boundary. He started staying later and later at work, and when he is home, he's unattentive. We don't go on dates or do things together anymore. The last time he tried to imitate sex, I told him I wasn't feeling well, and he got pouty and told me, "It's been weeks. We've talked about couples therapy, but it's all on me to find one and set everything up. I just don't have the mental strength anymore to take on new things. We have the sweetest cat. She is my whole world. He is a good man, just a bad husband. He has solid goals and plans for his and our future, and together, we've managed to become financially stable for the first time in my life. But I don't feel loved anymore. I don't feel like he cares about me the way I care about him. I don't want to leave. I just want the man I fell in love with back, and I don't know if that's possible anymore." Tifu by opening a bag. Today, fucked up, and may have committed a crime. So, a bit of setup, even though the actual foo was just a few hours ago. A couple of years ago, I set up a thick-walled contractor trash bag inside a frame in the unused side yard that my dogs would go to relieve themselves. Once a week or more, I would go out there and pick up all their droppings with the shovel and collect them in the contractor bag. After a couple of weeks, I would close up the bag and toss the whole thing into the trash bin, following the strict instructions given on my city's waste collection services website. And this was the schedule I followed until the winter of 2021, when we had a series of storms that basically flooded our backyard. During this time, My dogs would go out to the main yard where there was higher ground and grass and do their business there. Then I would pick up their poop and put it into a covered trash can lined with another contractor bag. After a few months, this became the established procedure, and it's the routine I follow to this day. During this time, I had forgotten about the big bag in the side yard, which had remained open to the sky and had collected a substantial amount of water, eventually collapsing under its own weight and closing itself. Somewhat as time passed, the now largely ignored side yard became infested with tall weeds, completely obscuring from view the now forgotten garbage bag filled with feces and rainwater, leaving it to fester through 2 years of weather. During summer's hot days and several atmospheric rivers that only served to further churn and ferment the contents into an angry, foul, and disgusting goulash. It was yesterday that I decided to tackle and attack the overgrowth with a weed whacker, and that's when I rediscovered the bag of that revolting mixture. I had the luck of not hitting it with the trimmer and the sense not to open it. I resolved to clandestinely shove it into the trash bin the following day, since trash pickup in our neighborhood is on Thursdays. So today I rolled the trash bin into the side yard, turned it on its side, opened the lid near the bag, and used a shovel and a hoe to, as gently as possible, manipulate the bag into the open bin. And this is when today's fuck-up occurs. Somehow, miscalculated where the opening of the bag was, snagged the edge with the hoe, and accidentally exposed the fetid contents to the open air. I've smelled some awful things before, but this was beyond anything I've ever experienced. I nearly vomited, but remembered some advice from a veterinarian: if you have to smell something really, really bad, like rotting or necrotic flesh, grin like an idiot. Somehow that inhibits the response to vomit. Since the wind was blowing in my direction, I immediately moved upwind to catch my breath, and, grinning like an idiot, I repositioned myself to pull the offensive sack into the trash bin instead of pushing it in. I waited a few minutes to regain my composure before using the hoe to pull the heavy sack into the bin and slam the lid shut. Pulling it upright, I started to wheel the bin to the curb. Behind our house is a quaint little park. Since school let out, the park has been filled with people and children. There's a quilting group that meets right behind our house where the trees provide shade so that they can work on their quilts. There's a basketball court where parents and children go to shoot some hoops, and a small playground where parents put their kids on swings, let them climb around on the play set, and use the slide. I heard the first scream close to the fence where the quilting group meets, and shortly after I heard someone yelling, "Oh good God, what is that smell?" Immediately followed by the unmistakable sounds of someone coughing and retching. I also heard, "Ugh, that stinks," and "Where in the fuck is that coming from?" The northerly wind had carried the overwhelming stench of the open bag to the park, where it was sickening and nauseating people who had come to relax and enjoy the early summer afternoon. I thought I heard a child crying, but I'm not sure. Since I was hearing other sounds of distress coming from the park, I practically ran back into the house, stripped off all my clothing next to the washer and threw it in, hit the sanitize cycle, and took a long shower. I can still hear their screams. If it was a crime that I committed, let this be my confession. They say confession has the power to free us from the strongholds of sickness, sin, isolation, and torment. But nothing I do can wash the stain from my soul. Tleater, Tfue, and May have committed a crime by exposing innocent people in a nearby park to the stench from a gigantic bag of dog feces that had been festering and decaying in my yard for the better part of 2 years. Tfue by writing down a secret. Today, I fucked up. Well, last month. But I just remembered after blacking out the horrific memory. I was attending the first day of a week-long peer support specialist training along with a female co-worker and several other students from different workplaces. The training would involve a lot of soul-searching, sharing stories of addiction, struggle, etc., as our job was to work with people in crisis. Anyway, a bit early on in the first day, ran to take a leak. When I got back, everyone was writing on a flashcard they'd been given and folding them up. I asked my coworker what I missed, and she said I had to write a secret. Due to the emotional nature of our training, I believed we'd fold them up and hang onto them or something. Then we'd throw them away at the end or some symbolic thing like that. So, I write, I feel like a terrible father and sometimes regret having kids. I have a 1.5-year-old. Imposter syndrome or depression is a bitch. I fold it up and pocket it. Alright, I'm gonna collect everyone's cards now. The facilitator says, I think. Huh? Alright. This must be some kind of trust exercise. Brilliant stuff. Wow. He collects the cards, then puts them in a cup and shakes it up. Holy fuck. I am breaking a sweat now. I ask my coworker what's going on. She shrugs. Okay. He grabs a card and reads it. It days. I've been bit by a shark. Huh. Weird secret. I tell everyone that. The class then points to one person. Some are like, that's gotta be you. You look like a surfer. Surfer dude confirms it's his and everyone cheers. I'm at this point seconds from jumping across my desk and stealing the bucket of cards. He reads a few more and everyone correctly guesses the secret holder. I was in a movie. I was born in Canada, things like that. He grabs mine, which is the last fucking one. My coworker, with me being the last one, says, I guess we all know who this one is going to be. The look on the instructor's face when he opened the card. He sort of half-pity laughs. I feel like a terrible father and sometimes regret having kids. The room falls silent and I just sit. They're wanting to crawl out of my skin and die. I raise my hand to confirm it's me. I learned later on he said to write a fun fact about yourself anonymously on the card. Not a deep dark secret. Fuck me TLDR. Thought we had to write a dark secret on a card which we would keep during a class. Turns out it was a fun fact, and I had to sit and listen to it be read to everyone.